this is about me. I am Rajasegar Chandran. I am a front-end architect at Freshworks. So this is my GitHub handle, Rajasegar on GitHub, and Rajasegar_C on Twitter. And I, occasionally write about, micro frontends and other JavaScript related stuff at dev.to Rajasegar. Okay, so let's look at Freshworks at a glance. What is Freshworks? Freshworks is a SaaS CRM solution provider to businesses of different kinds and different domains. Okay, Freshworks was founded in 2010. It has now grown to 5,000 plus employees and 58,000 plus customers. Okay, we have been recognized in major Gartner quadrants. So this is how our evolution looks like. It is founded in 2010, and the first product we built was called as Freshdesk Support Desk, which is a customer support SaaS-based solution for your customer support teams. Okay, then we went on to build multiple products related to ITSM domain, CRM and sales domain, and so on. So now we are a multi-product company having more than, I think, 10 to 20 products around CRM solutions in the market. So why I am telling this is because it is all have to do with how the micro frontend journey started in Freshworks. Okay, so before that we'll see what are the technologies in Freshdesk look like. So how does our tech stack look like? So in backend we started with Ruby on Rails, and then we trying to move to Java by building a couple of microservices. I mean, a lot of microservices we have built, and we are also using Go and Node.js in other places. And in the front end, we have Ember.js framework, React, and Vue. How many people heard about Ember.js? Wow, cool. That's very happy to hear. Okay, so most of our product code bases, were and still is monolithic. Okay. So this is how the journey of micro frontend started within Freshdesk. Okay. So before pandemic, before some point of time, so most of our products were monoliths. That is, most of our product experience and people were working in silos. And then the pandemic hit us. We tried to change our business model, our business roadmap, and everything got changed. So our business want to integrate different product experiences into an unified experience for the customers. So they basically wanted different capabilities from different products to integrate into a single page, single product UI experience. So we came to realize that bundled products is the future, and we are looking at a multitude of permutations and combinations of bringing in more product UI experiences together. Okay. So as a result, our engineering vision also needs to be aligned, right? So with our business mission and product roadmaps. So this is how our product front end looks like. So most of our products, follow a consistent, design or pattern and use a common design language. So as you can see, most of our products have a left side global navigation bar. You have a header at the top, and in the center pane, you have the core product content, the UI. Okay. So this is how we envisioned our micro frontend experience, or one product experience. Okay. So in the navigation, if you click on a particular link in that, so in the center pane, so each and every page or a particular page from a different product needs to get loaded. Okay, so that is what the experience is all about. So bringing in multiple front-end experiences into a single page. Okay. So before micro frontends were in the radar for Freshworks, so we were predominantly relying on iframes for this kind of things. Okay, but as you know, iframes comes with a lot of disadvantages. Okay, they are basically a legacy way of integration. It can be slower and less performant, because we are having the overhead of handling multiple iframes in a single page, and it also gives disjointed user experience. It is not good for accessibility, and it's more difficult to implement things such as cross-domain communication with iframes. So at one point of time we decided that okay, no more iframes. We are not going to use iframes anywhere in the product. So then we switched to something called micro frontends. Okay, so what is micro frontends? Micro frontends is an architectural approach for building web applications. It is something similar to your backend microservices, but the only thing is we are building it in the front end, for the front end. So it involves breaking up a monolithic front end application into smaller manageable pieces. Okay, it allows developers to work on individual parts of the application independently. Okay, so these are the three primary reasons why one should use micro frontends. The first one is micro frontends optimize feature development. They make your front-end upgrades easier, and they, without worrying about making different technologies working together, you can try to focus on your customer problems and provide additional value. Why multiple frameworks in micro frontends? Okay, so one of the main benefits of using multiple frameworks, what I mean by framework is I'm meaning JavaScript frameworks like React, Ember, Vue. Okay, so one of the main benefits of using micro frontends with multiple frameworks is that you can use different frameworks for different parts of the application. Okay, your developers can choose the framework that best suits the needs of each individual micro frontend, and this can lead to improved performance, better maintainability, and faster development cycles. And below are the three main reasons or three main drivers for using multiple frameworks in a micro frontend application. They are autonomy, performance, and technology diversity. We'll see one by one in detail. Okay, so with micro frontends, it comes increased autonomy to build your applications, because your monolith is split into small manageable parts, so your developers can work independently and make decisions that are best. And it's also support agility by allowing teams to choose their own technology. Your developers are free to choose any JavaScript framework, any library, and it leads to improved innovation, faster development cycles, and better alignment with business needs. Okay, it can also prevent bottlenecks and dependencies, because you're not relying on a single team or single a library or a framework to provide product capabilities, right? So you can autonomously work and deploy your micro frontends. And one of the other important reasons for bringing in multiple frameworks is that performance. So performance is a major concern with monolithic code base. Why? Because when your front end gets bigger and bigger, your JavaScript bundle size also become bigger. You place a lot of HTTP requests, it leads to slow load performance, slow time to interactive. So you know about the Google page metrics, right? The time to interactive, first content paint, layout shift. A lot of things depends on your JavaScript bundle size also, right? So and then if you want to have faster landing pages, okay, which are crucial for your business success, you can simply replace your landing pages with a different framework of choice. Okay, so if you are building your landing pages with a more bulky and monolithic framework like Ember, you can easily switch to React or Svelte or Solid or something like that. Okay, so rewriting a slower module with a better and faster framework of choice using multiple frameworks. So that is what the performance benefits are all about. And then the other main reason is technology diversification. So normally in investing and money and activities, they don't recommend you to put all your eggs in one basket, right? They want you to diversify, right? So similarly, with respect to technology and micro frontends, so don't build all your applications or your product within one framework. It may prove costly in the long run. Okay, so betting on potential framework alternatives for the future. You can also try out or experiment different frameworks for different parts of your application. And it also helps prevent vendor lock-in. You're not locked into a particular technology or a library or a framework with your front end. And it also gives more opportunity, as I said earlier, for innovation and experimentation. So diversification is also good for technology. Okay, so you have seen what are the benefits of micro frontends and why we need micro frontends, why multiple frameworks, everything, right? So how the micro frontends are built? So basically they are composed together. Okay, so there are three types of compositions at a broad level. One is the server-side composition, and the client-side composition, and the third is hybrid composition. In server-side composition, you stitch together your micro frontends at the server side. So at the final output, you will only get a combined HTML for your page. And then in client-side composition, you stitch your micro frontends together at the browser during the runtime. Okay. In hybrid composition, you can make use of best of the both worlds. Okay. So we in Freshworks chose client-side composition because all our product experiences are based on the single page application model. So we are naturally inclined to use the client-side composition approach for building our micro frontends. So there are different tools and libraries available in the market, okay, to build client-side composition of micro frontends. So the tool which we chose is called SingleSpa. So you can find more about that in singlespa.js.org. Okay, so single spa is one of the most established and better tools for building your micro frontends. I'll tell that why in a short while. Okay, so single spa is known as the JavaScript router for your front-end microservices, also known as micro frontends. So it is basically works on the client-side routing model. It makes use of JavaScript modules for integration at the browser. It have a rich ecosystem of plugins and libraries, almost all of the frameworks, major frameworks like React, Vue, Angular, Solid, Svelte, everything. Okay, so it has broad community support. So it is based on the plugin architecture, and you can build different type of micro frontends for different use cases. I'll come to that later, what do you mean by different type of micro frontends. Because normally we think, when you are building micro frontends, it is basically for rendering the UI, right? But we are doing more than rendering the UI, with micro frontends. Okay, so single spa comes with all the batteries included, so that's why I said it is one of the most, well-known and established libraries. It comes with the CLI, just like your React CLI, right? Create React app. So single spa has its own CLI, create single spa applications. It has plugins for most of the JavaScript frameworks. It also got a DevTools inspector, so that you can, in the browser, debug your micro frontends, whether your micro frontends is loaded or not loaded, what is the problem with it, what is the error. So you can do all these with the DevTools inspector, provide with single spa. And it also got some deployment utilities. Why deployment utilities are important in the sense, when you think about micro frontends, means you are thinking about independently deployable units, right? So you need to have some sort of tooling around that. So with monolithic applications, normally you would deploy everything at the same time, all your JavaScript, CSS and everything. Now your application is split into multiple JavaScript modules, right? Multiple CSS files. So you need to coordinate or orchestrate all these things via your deployment utilities. So that's why single spa is also providing deployment utilities to take care of all of this deployment hassles. Okay. So the reason I said single spa is one of the most established framework and its most most effective framework for building micro frontends is because of this reason. Single spa is built on foundational web technologies like HTML, JavaScript modules, import maps, system.js, client-side routing, and plugins. So all these things sit under the single spa architecture. So single spa make use of all these foundational things to build your micro frontends. Okay, so this was the CLI I was talking about. You can install it using npm, using create single spa, and you can run the command. Okay, so alternatively you can do it without installing also using npx or yarn create, something like that. Okay, so let's come to single spa. How does it work? What are the moving parts? Okay, so underneath single spa at a very high level there are only two components. One is called the root config and the other one is called applications. Okay, so the applications are nothing but, in single spa terminology, they are micro frontends. Okay, so in single spa your micro frontends are known as applications. So what is the root config? The root config is something like an app shell. Okay, it is just a basic simple HTML file where you have some JavaScript that registers your micro frontends or applications. So each application is registered with three things. One, you have to specify the name of your application or your micro frontend, and a function to load your micro frontend code. What is the main JavaScript bundle for your micro frontend code? And a function that determines when this particular micro frontend will be active in the browser, whether you are clicking a button, whether you are going to a URL. So when this particular micro frontend is activated, so you have to specify these things during the registration of your micro frontend. I'll show the code. Okay, so this is how the root config code will look like. As you can see, right, simple HTML, nothing magic in there. Okay, so you have a template element and you have a something element called single spa router. Under that router you place all the routes with which your micro frontend gets mounted or loaded. Okay, so when you visit the settings path, your settings micro frontend will get loaded. When you visit the client's path, I mean the client's URL in the browser, your client micro frontend will get loaded. And at the top you can see the nav and as well as the footer. These are micro frontends which are always loaded, which are always mounted. Okay, so in addition to that, you have to register your micro frontend application with the root config. So that will look something like this. Okay, so from the single spa package or the library, you have two methods. One is called the register application and the start. So the register application is responsible for registering your micro frontends with the root config. Okay, you give the name, you give the main bundle of your JavaScript. So in this app2 case, main.js is the root bundle, the main bundle, which you get at the end of your build pipeline, right? So and then location, using location you tell that when my URL starts with /app2, you make this particular micro frontend active. Okay, you can also pass in some custom properties along with your application. So this is the bottom one is a more expressive API with the key value pair, name, app, active and custom props or something like that. Once you register all your micro frontends with the root config, you just say start for the single page application to start. Okay, so let's talk about applications or micro frontends. So single page applications package into modules. It's nothing but your basic SPA, right? Whatever you build with single page application frameworks like React or Vue or Angular. So the final output you get a JavaScript file, right? So that is what single page requires to load your micro frontend. So each application must know how to bootstrap, mount and unmount itself. So all you need to do is when you are using a single SPA, your application should know how to bootstrap, mount and unmount itself. So what I mean by these life cycles is, these are called life cycles in single page JS. So bootstrap is whenever the first time your micro frontend is loaded. That is the bootstrap phase. Okay. Mount phase is whenever the micro frontend becomes active or you are visiting the particular URL when the micro frontend will be rendered in the UI, in the browser. And unmount is whenever your micro frontend becomes inactive or when you switch to a different URL. Okay, I'll show that in action. So this is how our app shell looks like. Okay, so we have the root config, that is a separate repo. Okay, so and all these product are different repos. Okay, GitHub repos. So whenever in the root config you visit /desk URL, okay, in the micro frontend, it will mount the Freshdesk Ember app. Okay, Freshdesk micro frontend. So as you can see, we are using different Ember versions in this app also. So Freshchat is using Ember 3.8, Freshdesk is using Ember 3.4, and we have Bot Builder, another micro frontend which is using React. So we are mixing together different frameworks. And the navbar, which is a common navbar which is shown earlier in the site, right? It is built in React. So you are basically mixing different frameworks together in a single page application using single page life cycles. Okay, this is a more detailed view how the interaction happens or how the sequence happens. So whenever the user clicks the link in the navigation, which is hosted in the navbar micro frontend, the navbar micro frontend will tell the root config that the user clicked on the URL desk. Then the bootstrap phase starts to happen. So the bootstrap phase happens only once for a micro frontend, like when you mount your micro frontend for the first time. You are fetching basically the assets for your micro frontend, the JavaScript, CSS and everything, and then the micro frontend is mounted and it will be notified to the root config. Okay, and when the user clicks to a different link, like let's say he clicks on the bots page, okay, and then what will happen is the unmount phase of the desk micro frontend will start to happen. So once it is unmounted, then the bots micro frontend will be bootstrapped and it will be mounted. So similarly the same cycle goes on and on when you switch to different URLs or different things. Okay. Okay. So a good architecture is defined as one where your micro frontends are decoupled and do not frequently need to communicate. But as you can see, reality is very far from that, right? So you cannot have completely decoupled micro frontends. You need to have some sort of coupling or some sort of communication between your micro frontends, right? So this is what you need to share and communicate functions, components, logic, environment variables, API data, UI state among other micro frontends or with your parent micro frontend, that is the root config, right? So what are the challenges we faced with our micro frontends when we are building micro frontends using different technologies, different JavaScript frameworks? The first challenge we faced is working with a unified URL. Okay, so as I said before, our products were silos, right? So which means they work under or operate under different URLs. Our Freshdesk product works under a URL called freshdesk.com. Our chat product works under freshchat.com. Similarly for bots, it's bots.com. So when you bring in all these applications under a single URL, you obviously have some challenges, right? So your assets won't load, you get some CARS errors and a lot of things, So this kind of challenges we are facing when we are building with the micro frontend architecture. And then our deployments, we are following a canary model called blue-green deployments. So previously we have only one blue-green deployment for a particular product. Now we are bringing in multiple product front ends together, and all those products are following different blue-green models, and you have to synchronize them with your root config or the parent micro frontend, right? So the problem is compounded. And then how do you share common UI components? So we have a common design system which is providing some basic primitive components that could be shared across all the products. So with this architecture, with this micro frontend architecture, how do you share these components, or how do you share common library code, right? Sharing same React versions. For example, I previously showed that the navbar and the bot builder are using React, right? How do you share React between those two micro frontends? So these are the challenges we faced when we are building micro frontends. Okay, so now how do you communicate with different micro frontends? Your micro frontends need to send some data to the parent, and the parent need to respond. It should share data with other micro frontends. So these sort of challenges are always there when you are using multiple micro frontends and with multiple frameworks. Okay. So this was the previous one I was talking about, different type of micro frontends. With single SPA, you can create different type of micro frontends for different use cases. Okay. So there are three types. The first one is called the application, second one parcel, and utility. Okay. So the application is the default type, the default micro frontend type, which renders UI. Okay. When you want to render UI and when you want to handle multiple routes within your micro frontend, you should go for the application micro frontend type. Okay. So when you don't have to render UI, or when you don't have to handle routes within a particular micro frontend, you can go for the other two micro frontend types. So they are pretty much similar, but with some slight differences between how they handle the life cycles and how they render the UI. They may or may not render the UI. The utilities are purely for something like if you want to share code, you are not rendering UI, but you want to share code. Something like authentication or utility service, notification service. For those kind of things, you can make use of your utility micro frontends. Okay. Okay. So if you want to find more about micro frontends, so there is an awesome list I am maintaining in my GitHub called Awesome Micro Frontends. You can find all the resources related to micro frontends. Okay. So even technologies similar to single SPA JS and other integration approaches. Like so you might have heard about module federation, right? With React, there is an approach called module federation to bring in different micro frontends together. So you can know about all those things. This is a one-stop resource for know about micro frontends. And I'm also running a newsletter called Micro Frontend Weekly. If you want latest updates, you can subscribe to that. Okay. So I wanted to wind up with the presentation with this beautiful quote. So too much of anything is bad, but too much of whiskey is good enough. Okay, from Mark Twain. So what I'm trying to drive here is, okay, with micro frontends, with multiple frameworks, yes, it is possible to achieve framework freedom, but freedom comes with a price. Okay, you saw the challenges what we faced, right? Okay, so which means micro frontends are not for everyone, right? It depends entirely on your use case, on your operational dynamics, your developer dynamics, your organization dynamics, everything. It depends on a lot of factors, right? So that is it. Thank you.